Broadcasting live, this is the Handicappers Report, brought to you by the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany, and CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Handicappers Report alongside Seth Merrow. I am Anthony Mormino. As we work our way to the middle part of November, we've set the clock back. We have a 9-race Saturday card at the Big A. Of course, the Artie Schiller is going to be run tomorrow versus today based on weather. Probably a terrific idea by the New York Racing Association. Seth will have 11 at the Claiming Crown from Churchill Downs. And, you know, obviously a time of year where there's not a pause button, but it gets quieter for a while. Fairgrounds will be opening up in a couple of days, and that sort of, to me at least, kicks off the winter type racetracks. Obviously, Oaklawn Park now opens up much earlier than we were used to for 50 years. Churchill Downs will run the November meet, then a lot of their guys will go over to the fairgrounds. We're out at the Bing Crosby meet at Del Mar, and they're going to try and run more turf races than dirt races. So we've turned the page, and just last I joined you was on tape delay basis via satellite. But the Breeders' Cup is in the books. It's the first time, Seth, you and I have worked together, so I think we should start at the top. And Flightline didn't beat him by double digits, but he might have been able to if he had been so inclined. He sort of waltzed the last.
I read somewhere though that it was the biggest margin in the Classic.
Oh yeah, I mean, just throttled him. I mean, most Breeders' Cup races on the dirt, except for Inside Information, which was a wet going, which you often see big margins. That's, you know, I always said this. You know, my point about the Pacific Classic is that is country grammar 20 lanes back. I mean, this is a good group. The one thing I said was like, Life is Good ran like a 29-second final quarter. So that was that 109, which you would have thought was in his wheelhouse, broke his back.
I had Epicenter underneath.
Yes.
And I would have loved to have seen Epicenter run a legitimate race. Epicenter wound up getting hurt in the race and subsequently had surgery and was retired. But I would have loved to have seen what he could have done in the stretch. Olympiad made a late run, but it was no threat to the winner, obviously. But Epicenter was kind of sitting early, right with Olympiad, with those early fractions. And for folks who aren't aware, I think by now most people are, but that 107 they put up was almost immediately scoffed at, and they think an outrider had broken the beam.
Well, you can see him going to Epicenter. Like when you watch it, if you're used to racing, usually the outriders are stationary and they're just, you know, they go by after the field. But you can see him, like, I want to say at about the half mile, you can see him and you can see the thoroughbreds going this way. And then he doesn't go in a mad dash, but he begins to immediately gallop because Epicenter was like out of the video, like, you know, I only knew something was going on because I saw something that doesn't happen unless something's going on. And that, you know, then you find out what it was.
But they upped it to a 109 and change. Still very, very fast. And it was a 121 buyer figure. So, yeah, it was a spectacular way to end the weekend. And then I was kind of excited to see what was going to happen on Monday. And a little bit later on, 10 o'clock, I was going to still talk a little Breeders' Cup to have Tim Wilkin on. He was down covering for the Blood Horse, but we have Terry Finley on to talk some Flightline, obviously. But on Monday, they sold 2.5%, one share essentially, 1/40th of Flightline at auction on Monday, $4.6 million.
Good luck. You know, I mean, I was talking with our director before, and I have a soft list of. I love these sales after the Breeders' Cup, especially the fillies and mares. And I want to say to the people, have you ever seen it work out? Pick one mare that produced one foal that got you back 50% of your sales price, and they'd be hard-pressed to do it. But, you know, interesting day. I'm wondering can Jackie's Warrior be the champion after losing the last two? I'm like, 0 for 3
But
lifetime
who
in the
would it be?
Breeders'
It
Cup.
wasn't a super strong division
No.
this year.
I
Yeah.
agree, but it's like, I mean, it's sketchy. Well, and for me, betting, as I've said it, this was very odd for me. I knew I was in trouble when Tuesday was half her morning line price, which is bad for me. She was 8 on the morning line, finished up at 4, and I thought was clearly the best. Nashua ran 4th. I don't think she got the best ride in the world, but none of the mutuals were not Breeders' Cup like, except for Caravel.
I was going to say Caravel.
Was the one. Usually there's 3, but this was
and not even
second.
the win. Usually underneath you're going to get something that's going to blow up an exotic.
I have not witnessed in the modern era. Now, it's not like when the Breeders' Cup first started, there was 7 races, and usually 3 or 4 favorites would win. We didn't have the betting menu we have today, so I don't really count those. Really, this type of betting menu with superfectas in every race, multiple pick 3s and pick 4s is really a this century type thing. But boy, as they were going by and by, I was like amazed at how light, except for Caravel, these races were. It was stunning how minimalist. Even Olympiad, who was he the longest price on the board?
I think there was somebody else.
What is it, like 30 to 1?
Yeah, wouldn't a rich strike have been longer? Well, you never know with Rich Strike.
No, you don't know with the Derby winner. But even him finishing under Flightline, you're like, what was he?
Happy Saber was 49 to 1.
Okay, well, he should have been.
So
his whole year.
Second longest.
Second,
price.
and was it like 30 to 1?
26.
26. And it came.
Rich Strike was 24.
Yeah, so I'm like, and, it just surprised me. I mean, I was very taken aback by how formful the payouts were. It was really just, Caravel was your one chance. I think the pick 4 with Caravel was balloons, big balloons. But short of that, boy, and I was saying to Seth before we came on, it was like every other race the favorite won. So your pick 3s or pick 4s are in a lot of trouble in modern games. I do like what somebody said, and I felt this way in 1998, that Incurable Optimist was the 2-year-old champ, not Answer Lively. Modern Games is the 3-year-old champion in the United States. He will not get it, but he is the 3-year-old champion. I thought we did it on Wednesday, and I thought the extra trip back for the QE2 would be too much. But when I was watching the coverage, they really said that how much this horse loves to race, kind of an anomaly in today's day and age, and it invigorates him. And the more I felt like I was going uphill against Modern Games, and he just backhanded. I will be interested, Seth, because I have a big problem with the group as a whole who votes for the Eclipse Awards. I don't think they watch enough racing. He's not going to win, but how many votes Modern Games receives, because that will show me how many people are paying attention, because it's going to be Epicenter, right?
I would think, but
that is a very spotty
on
record.
Twitter, I heard some people floating out tape, and it'd be interesting. Somebody had mentioned something today that I thought was interesting. I read on Twitter where they said, "I think it's Taba, and let's see what he does in the Malibu." And will he go in the Malibu? Because I think that would make a difference. You had another Grade 1, that maybe makes a difference. But
you can't win the Santa Anita Derby and the Malibu over the Woodbine Mile and the Breeders' Cup Mile.
That will show with you on
the
supreme. Games,
that will show you the supreme prejudice against turf runners. If Taba's resume is the Santa Anita Derby in April and the Malibu in December beats the Woodbine Mile and the Breeders' Cup Mile, that's
and a close-up
insane.
Second behind Baid.
Yeah, I know that the non-North American races aren't supposed to be taken in consideration. And I would even say this, Seth, He won the 2-year-old. I mean, he's been in our front windshield for 13 months. He's the best 3-year-old. I mean, jeez.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see how the vote goes. I do think it will be epicenter. I think he's going to win, and I don't think it's going to really be that close.
Yeah, I know.
I think he's going to win by a lot,
Probably agree with that. Yeah.
irrespective of what Tabor does who in the Malibu.
But again, going off Caravel and modern games, it was nice that Caravel got the victory, though, to save the turf record for America. The Pennsylvania bred getting a turf victory stopped the European terrain. And again, there was a lot of chat around on Twitter. Oh my God, these Europeans, they come over here and they're just dominant. And it's like, well, yeah, but on the dirt, we're dominant. So it works out. That's their game over there. Our game's the dirt over here. And, you know, they don't come over here and do us in the dirt necessarily. So it works out the way it probably should work out, given what the concentrations are.
I will say this, and I love him. I've carried his water on this network for a long time. I don't think Joelle Rosario helped Warlike Goddess out. I think she'll deservedly win a championship. I think she's the best domestic long-distance turf mare I can remember seeing. She didn't get helped once again in the Breeders' Cup. She ran third. But I will say this, and these type of things with the turf, these were really determined like 40 years ago when it was Robert Sangster at that time and the Sheikh. They bought all the Northern Dancer blood. And you with that exodus, Mike Veach on this network used to talk about 6 or 7 generations back and how the bloodlines stand up. Well, they took all the Northern Dancer blood when it was clear he wasn't going to have any more going through the ring. The two of them just bid like crazy. They got the blood. They ended up getting Sadler's Wells, which ended up getting you Galileo, which ended up getting you Frankel. This is talking about only going back 4 or 5 generations, and that's their game. I mean, who do we have? I mean, we had Dynaformer for a little while, Theatrical at a lower level, but they have the stallions to produce the better runners, and they. But I'm still shocked at the mutuals, folks. I was just amazed at how pedestrian the prices kept coming and coming and coming. On Friday, where I got blitzed, and then when I saw Tuesday at 4-1 on the board, I liked your chances more, but I was like, well, I was expecting $18 or $20. This doesn't help, and so on and so forth. And there weren't too many. I think Lady Shakespeare ran third in that race. That helped a little bit. But there's an example, folks, and I'm now almost fully committed next year. Nashua ran 4th in that race as the 5-2 favorite, I think. And I think when you make them equal, because remember, it's a 50-cent try and a 10-cent super, so you got to multiply by 4 and by 20. I think the super was like 8,400. Am I right if you multiply it by 20?
For a dime, it was 170.
So multiply by 20, so 3,400. So it was 3,400. And what was the try?
The try for 50 was 186.
So that's about 760. And the favorite ran fourth. So that was a race, as much as it killed me with getting nothing out of the exacta, really indicated that that's the way to go. And I've let the wife know that don't be afraid of how much the tickets cost next year, honey. But great day of racing.
The exclamation point was obviously Flightline, but the best race of the day. Just before we move on, the distaff, that finish in the distaff. I had used Clairiere. I thought Clairiere came back on the inside and I was going to get it. And then they were showing the replays. I wasn't sure. Blue Stripe was in there at 24-1. I had Mike Welch on the Sunday before to talk workouts. He was raving about Blue Stripe. Continued to do it at other outlets during the week.
Yep.
They had him on the simulcast, the Breeders' Cup. They interviewed him early in the day. He said the one horse that jumped out at me, Blue Stripe. So good work for Welch with that one winding up second at 24-1. But Malathat with a nice win. John Velasquez.
Well, I know what killed me there? 19 years ago at San Diego, the dead heat, I have Foul Breath on the rail who loses the photo finish, always finishes third. I picked Clariere for the first time in my life, and I actually loved her in the distaff. I have her on the rail, and I lose the photo finish and run third once again. The best chance that I had for a huge score was one of my favorite picks of the day. As it turned out, both you and Brian Natto loved Annapolis in the mile, which I did not. I loved Ivar. And this is when you've watched races enough, you know you're in trouble. I could see that there was a chance he was going to make the front inside the 8th pole, but I knew it was only going to be for about 2 strides because he was going to get run over. But it's one of those things. I love the pick. I mean, I loved him. I thought he was probably my second. I don't count Flightline. Basically, Tuesday, Clariere, and Ivar were the 3 that I really fancied. I didn't have much of an opinion in the sprint, either sex, etc. And I knew he was never going to win the race, but I knew he was going to outrun odds, and I was okay with it. But that was the race I needed, probably, to light up the board.
You know, when you talked about the prices and the short price on Flightline,
Yes.
I'll just add in, it was kind of fun afterwards to see, if you're not familiar, the BCBC Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, one of the big, that and the National Handicapping Championship, 2 of the big betting competitions during the year. The winner, Drew Coatney, who works for Pete Fornatel on the In the Money podcast, he's the business consultant there. He ends up winning, and he came into the final race, I want to say with $90,000. Put it all on Flightline, and that got him the win. And it was hilarious to see, he tweeted out his tickets. So I think I read he was at the window for like 15 minutes because you could only do it in $500 increments.
Amazing in this day and age.
So he was bang, 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 and he had like 10 tickets that were worth $9,000 each at $500 a pop going down the ticket. But just a big bold move at the end. I mean, you say bold, it's Flightline, but it's his whole bankroll riding on Flightline, and that won him the contest. And I think he walked away with $500,000 between what he won on track and what the prize money was. And it was enough that he said, I'm going to buy myself a house. So that's a pretty good day at the races.
The last 3 or 4 times that's been in Southern California, I've been in that room. I have a good kid who always invites me to watch. And the thing that I know is tough about that competition in particular, because it's so valuable, there's a group in there that are well off, that their whole goal is to either break the bank or zero. I've seen guys be out on Friday, and then there's guys who are, it really matters, and they have to play the game completely differently. And I watch it, I'm like, that's a tough nut to crack.
Drew said he's not that kind. He just got into the game a few years ago. He's a young guy, but he said he's not that kind of a player necessarily. But he came into this contest saying, I want to build up my bankroll and shoot my whole thing on one horse in the last race. And it worked out for him. But if you go to the Breeders' Cup website and click on the betting challenge, you can look at the leaderboard. Go down and look at some of the names, some of the very familiar names who have goose eggs.
Yeah.
Where they
fire and they.
And I'm the same way. If I was Drew Coatney and I had $90,000, and they start with, it's a $10,000 buy-in. You're playing, I think, with $7,500. If I turned my $7,500 into $90,000, I would have been hard pressed to push all in.
And that's the rub, if you will, that the group that knows there's a group like that, I'm not really competing against them because they're going to take their chips off the table. They're not really in the competition. They have a $40,000 or $50,000 score. They're out.
Yeah.
Me, I'm in. Yeah. So it's a little rough in that regard. But I will say it's very exciting. I'm very grateful to my friend that gets me in there to watch it. He's introduced me to some of these players. Like I said, they come back on Saturday. They're already out. They have lunch and they watch. And we're going to watch 11 races at Churchill Downs, claiming Crown Day. Was it always?
First time at Churchill.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get to. So that's good.
Yeah.
Moving around like the Breeders' Cup, I think that's good. We're going to start off at 1 o'clock, an 11 race card. In for 8, a mile and 16th on the dirt.
2, 4, 3, and 7 for me. I'll put Justin's Quest on top. The last race in Allowance Company and on dirt at Churchill wasn't much. The 2 races before were on the turf. But you go down the page, and the number fired last time on the dirt. It was a well-beaten 5th, but I think is going to match up okay with this group. I'm not thrilled because of that. Obviously the morning line is 2-1, so I think because of that, the morning line odds maker landed there. The horse is going to class up okay with this bunch. But that said, off the last race, the 2-1 is not super attractive. So you're playing pick 5, you're looking for alternatives. I think with a return to the proper level, Money for Mischief, they ran well for a 10 tag, 2 starts back, and then they bounced fairly far up the claiming ladder for what is probably more likely this level of competitor. So I think getting again back down to more of the comfort zone, Money for Mischief might be an alternative, and Rye Humor. There are some races underneath that are okay. Dropped down to vaguely this level last time, maybe a touch ahead, and it was so-so, but did have some trouble in there. But going down the page, I think this horse has a chance to run maybe a little bit better than that this afternoon. I jump in we're at low-level claiming ranks, and they're always a little inconsistent, but I wound up without much confidence, 2, 4, 3, and 7.
Second race on the card. This is the horse that I talked about my first day back to the Handicappers Report, and I will tell you, Seth, that this was the horse that kind of made me think that Jackie's Warrior. I maintained that Strobe, who ran the last race that day, ran faster in his debut than Jackie's Warrior did in the Grade 1, which made me suspect to a lot of things for Jackie's Warrior. I love the way Godolphin has handled him. And tongue-in-cheek, this is the best 3-year-old on dirt in America, folks. But they've decided to take this route, which indicates to me they are going to, their plan is a 4-year-old season. So this is optional clearance 125, 2X, going 6.5. He's 3-5 on the board. This is the horse that, like I said, look at Jackie's Warriors, Churchill Downs, Grade 1 fractions. Watch this horse's debut. It was dark. It was about 8:50 at night when he debuted.
And I couldn't get past
No,
Strobe. But I mean, you look at the purse for this optional claimer, and it makes sense. Hey, 3rd career start, 2nd off a layoff. We can go for a nice juicy purse and not have to knock heads with any real players.
I just want to say one thing. If you go see his races, my point being, he's run 99 and 97. He hasn't run the last 1/8 of a mile in the first 2. I mean, he has been dialed down both times.
Now, obviously, there was some kind of hiccup.
Well, I want to say a couple things, just because I couldn't put Brad Cox on the spot or his younger brother. I just said, because I talked to you during Saratoga, and we both noticed he wasn't working out. Oof. He was entered to debut at the fairgrounds, so he was entered. He didn't make that race, obviously, and then, so the fairgrounds ends in March, and he didn't make it to May. So clearly, there are some things going on.
So if you want to hang your hat on something like that, but that he's entered, you would expect you'll get a performance.
Right, this is a good sign. He's coming back in 30 days.
Yeah.
That's a good sign.
Now they're stringing a couple together. The last couple of workouts are very good. So, again, going to match up nicely with this group, you would think, and at a very short price. Second slot, Knock Her Down, turf to dirt move, and I think that's going to be key because the last dirt race is very, very good. It was a second place finish, but it was a solid number over at Keeneland, and this horse tends to throw pretty good numbers that maybe compete with the top pick if you're looking for an alternative to kick off your pick 4. Higher Standard in the 3rd slot. Nice little 3rd place finish last time, and a fairly similar event, maybe a little bit lesser, but probably should fit with this group. The underneath competitors in here. Second race at Churchill, 6, 4, 5, and 1.
Well, I tell you, they must have a lot of 2-year-olds at Churchill Downs. 2-year-old fillies oversubscribed, going the mile.
I always say that the 2-year-olds, really both of the fall meets, but the latter portion in particular, I think the 2-year-olds that come out of here are always very salty as they go into the next season. I have a 10, 8, 12, and 2. I'm going to put 10 Inside Girl on top. Now, there was a sibling called Beautiful Call, 0 for 11 so far in the career. But of those 11, 4 seconds and 3/3. So the horse had some ability despite the goose egg on the win side. Workouts are okay. It's Brad Cox. They paid a couple $100,000. I think we'll get a little bit of value here. I'll take a pop on that one. Aisha RN, there's a sibling called Gemini 1. 7th in debut, then ran 2nd, but then put in a couple of wins in the 3rd and the 4th career starts. There's some other winning siblings, but they're not necessarily win early. Otherwise, I would have been tilted to go here on top. Asmussen, Mendelssohn, but again, I didn't see on the bottom side of that enough win early. There's win, but not win early. But I'll put it in the mix, particularly if that 15-1 morning line holds up. And undoubtedly, another one that I might have moved up, except for the 12 post position, but at the 1-turn mile, has plenty of time to find a spot. Luis Saez on board, likely to do that. They paid $500,000. It's Judmont, it's Bill Mott. There was a sibling you'll remember called Fearless, went out for Pletcher and Rapoli, won the first 2 starts of the career, became a graded stakes winner, and so I think that bodes well for undoubtedly. Fun race. I have it 10, 8, 12, and 2.
Fearless wanted some ground. On to the 4th race. Starter allowance race going 5.5.
2, 9, 10, and 6. If it stays on the turf, if it goes on the dirt, 6, 1, 3, and 11. I'll tell you, they had a shot the other day where there were brown patches, but when they came down the stretch in the one race they ran yesterday, the day before, turf course actually looked pretty good, but clearly they've inexplicably had problems, and now they're having problems at fairgrounds too. The same Churchill organization, which is a little bit of a head scratcher. But again, 2, 9, 10, and 6. I'll put Bad Beat Brian on top. Nice win over Kentucky Downs 2 back. Tried a stakes race at Keeneland last time. Ran okay behind Golden Pal. So again, I think that bodes well, both of those for
quick
today.
thing. Should he have been declared a non-starter? I did not think so. But Twitter has been firing since then. I did not think it was that egregious. I've seen far worse. I thought he reared up, he let him go.
Yeah.
But Twitter is ablaze with incredulous that he was not declared a non-starter. But I think he just missed the break. He leapt, the assistant starter let him go, and the assistant starter might have been 3%, but the horse was 97% the reason he missed the break, and he really had no chance. I thought it was kind of a no-brainer, no call.
Yeah.
But maybe they had a bet, you think?
Yeah. So again, Bad Beat Brian on top, 7 cents in the second spot, close to be a good third. Belmont at Aqueduct in the latest event, but close from, kind of out of the clouds. You're up against it when you do that. But you look at the races further down the page, typically isn't that far out of it. So I'd expect 7 cents to be a little bit closer earlier today, and then chasing Artie in the 3rd spot. Nice stakes win down at Gulfstream on the synthetic 2 starts back, then went to Kentucky Downs and tried the turf sprint there. Yeah, it wasn't much, but again, that course is kind of quirky. I think overall, if you look down the page, this horse is consistently better than that race last time. Gaffleone on board for Saffie Joseph. I'll look for an improved effort for chasing Artie in the 4th. 2, 9, 10, and 6.
On to the 5th, Phillies and Merrow, starter allowance on the dirt going a mile.
6, 5, 4, and 7 for me. She's All Woman, another Saffie Joseph runner. This one coming in most recently from Gulfstream, rides a 4-race win streak. Was 3rd 3 times before that, so just has been in very good form in the 7 starts this season. Seems logical in here. Malin in the 2nd slot comes off a couple of wins. Last time was claimed. I am not familiar with this trainer. It has limited stats as far as first off the claim. This is kind of interesting, hadn't shown a workout since April at Belterra. That's always a concern for me when you're not seeing a lot of workouts, but was in good form when claimed. And again, I'm going to kind of hang my hat on what we saw and hope that the trainer can kind of hold up what we saw at Keeneland off only a couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks in the new barn. In the 3rd spot, I will go with Long-Legged Laverne, another horse in very good form. 5-race win streak coming into here from Indianapolis, Horseshoe at Indianapolis, and another one that I think is just in good form and kind of matches up nicely with this group, which is admittedly a fairly competitive group. I could probably switch up I think that Saffie Joseph horse probably is legitimately the one to beat in here, but you get beyond that, it becomes a little more of a dartboard kind of a situation. In the 5th, 6-5, 4 and 7.
On to the 6th, starter allowance going to mile 16.
1, 8, 2 and 5. I'll put Bless the Kitten on top. Went turf to dirt last time over at Keeneland and just missed there after having the lead late. I think that bodes well for this afternoon. Luis Saez on board. Second slot going to go out to Time for Trouble, the number 8 horse, another one of those coming in good form. 3 wins going back 2, 3, and 4 starts. Last time was a good second. Last time was on dirt. Starts 2 and 3 were on turf, but start 4 was an off the turf. So 3 wins and a second in the last 4 starts, 2 on turf, 2 on dirt. So I don't think the surface is going to be any kind of an obstacle. And again, the horse is in very good form. That 8-1 seems attractive for Time for Trouble. Moment in the 3rd spot coming in, also in good form. Also 3 wins and a second in the last 4 starts. The last was on the dirt up at Hawthorne. Has been the favorite in the last 3. And at 6-1, I think this one is also kind of attractive. So it's an interesting race. It's going to be interesting to me to see how the morning line matches up to what we get as these horses come into the gate. But at the morning line odds, kind of a fun, playable race. 6 to Churchill, 1, 8, 2 and 5.
And we'll take a quick break. When we come back, more from Churchill Downs.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops, my bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player? To have a better knowledge of the game? To be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, alongside Seth Merrow. I'm Anthony Mormino, up to race 7 at Churchill Downs, mile 16th, hopefully on the turf. Fillies and Mares starter allowance.
Yeah, if it does happen to go on the dirt, 1, 14, 8, and 3. But on the turf, 4, 7, 12, and 1. I'm going to put Sunny 1 on top. Comes in off a win over at Keeneland last time. Tried Stakes Company 2 back. Ran okay. But again, back in an optional claimer, 3 back, ran very nicely. And so, with the buyers over the last 3 and a couple of wins, bookending, again, an okay stakes try. This one seems logical in here. Starship, Malamar, Tyler Gaffleone on board, coming out of a win at Monmouth 2 back and a 3rd in New York last time. Both of those were at big odds. Going to be interested to see what this one goes off today. Again, we're 5-1 on the morning line. So off the last 2 is certainly taking more attention. I think deservedly so, and it's a nice fit in with this bunch. And then Wicked Groove, I originally had higher up in the mix, but at the, coming from the 12 post, I think is just going to be up against it a little bit. And so I couldn't quite pull the trigger. I think this horse for Rob Atras is clearly a player in here, but again, the post position just left me a little bit tepid. In the 7th, I have it 4, 7, 12, and 1. And I wonder if you buy the program, if these races will be named.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because sometimes then they start bringing them back. They put capital CC, which was, they didn't used to do it. They used to put just the name it was attributed to. And then after a couple runnings, they put capital CC to let you know if you were kind of following the sport that it was a claiming crown stakes race and the name. 6 furlong starter allowance, race 8.
1, 4, 2, and 7, Silver Moon Road on top, coming in from Indiana. Again, nice win streak of 5 races, so in very good form. Been facing, kind of the salty starter allowance company over the past 2 starts, 3 of the last 4, and has been doing it successfully. Leaves from the 1 today. At the 6 furlongs coming out of a chute like that, the 1's always a little bit of a question mark, but we'll put this one on top in the good form. Also in good form, Joyful Heart. Last time out, ran 2nd, but that snapped a win streak before. Last time was at Indiana. Before that was in a series of races at Belterra. But again, just seems to be going well. 6 wins and 13 starts this year. You can't knock that. And then in the 3rd slot, the Wolfman coming in from Laurel off a couple of wins at Laurel and 1 at Pimlico. So another one coming in some very, very good form. Trainer, limited starts this year, but doing very well. Interested to see what he can do out of town. In the 8th, I have it 1, 4, 2, and 7.
9th race, we have starter allowance going 7/8.
6, 9, 4, and 1. Up a family man on top, Robbie Medina. The former assistant to Shug, Tyler Gaffleone on board. Horse that has 7 exacta finishes in 10 career starts. Sat off the latter part of the summer, came back and ran a good 2nd right here at Churchill, going 1 mile and an 1/8. I think that should have the horse set up nicely, particularly with the cutback to the 7 today, and Gaffleone on board. 2nd slot, we're going to look at Lieutenant Junior Gray. Nice win last time, claimed out of that. Now, I'm always attracted to this type of runner because I think you have to look at it and think, claim the horse middle of October at the Keeneland meet, probably looking at the condition book and saying, we might have one for the claiming crown here. And I think they got just what they wanted with a 98 Beyer win. So Lieutenant Junior Grade, I would think it's very, very possible, was pointed to that with the idea of the claim. And then some nice early speed, typically from Cajun Brother, 12-1 on the morning line. I think with the early speed, this one becomes very dangerous and potentially very interesting if that morning line holds up. In the 9th, 6, 9, 4, and 1.
On to the 10th, 9 furlongs.
5, 7, 10, and 6. I'm going to put Intrepid Heart on top. Again, Tyler Gaffleone, this time for Joe Sharp. Tried Stakes Company 2 back and just missed. That race was bookended by a couple of optional claimers where the horse was also 2nd. These are the kind I'm always a little bit leery to use. 7 starts this year, 1 win, 6 second-place finishes. So this horse is kind of indicating, I'm a little bit camera shy and maybe don't want to go buy horses. I use the horse, but with that caveat. So if you're looking around and playing, I'm not going to argue if you're looking for alternatives, and one might be the 10-1 Tiz Rye Time. Nice big closing effort at Keeneland last time for a win. I think this horse will be heard from in the lane, and I think is a much better fit with this group than that morning line indicates. And our Nation on Parade. This was a horse that went into the Maryland Millions Classic, and I said, you know what? They claimed the horse at the end of Churchill in September. You would think with the idea of going to the Maryland Millions Classic, I subsequently kind of had that confirmed, and the horse won that Maryland Millions Classic. But now, coming out of that claiming race, zips over to the claiming crown, and we'll see if he can string a couple together off the claim. What might turn out to be a very clever claim in the 10th at Churchill, 5, 7, 10, and 6.
And wrapping it up, mile 16th on the turf.
4, 11, 14, and 9, one night standards on top. Decent try in the last couple. The 1.5 mile at Keeneland last time showed a little bit of closing punch, but 2 back going a mile at Kentucky Downs ran well. So I think the 1 mile and the 16th right in the wheelhouse. 2nd slot, Freedom Matters. Nice win last time at Kentucky Downs at 6.5. A 3rd right before that at the mile. So again, I think the 1 mile and the 16th in the wheelhouse of this one as well. And then in the 3rd spot, I will go a couple deep on the AE list. Just want to note that one in case there are scratches. If Max Cahill gets in, take a look. If it goes on the, so for me on the turf, 4, 11, 14, and 9. If this one happens to go on the dirt, 16, 2, 1, and 10.
All right, that wraps up our look at the Claiming Crown at Churchill Downs. We'll take our final break. When we come back, Aqueduct at Aqueduct.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Balboa. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-hard motor finish to the top. Here's the wire. Final finish.
Having trouble finding us? It's actually quite simple. Whether online or on your TV, it's never been easier to watch and wager on championship horse racing with Capital OTB. Simply log on to capitalotbbet.com. There you can watch our morning shows, live stream races, and wager on our state-of-the-art wagering platform. You can also watch from the comfort of your home on Spectrum Cable Channel 1250 or Fios Channel 467, and win more with Capital OTB.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report. Seth, Merrow, and Anthony Mormino. We'll shift now to, as you say, Aqueduct and Aqueduct, as the Belmont at Aqueduct meet is ended. You alluded to, you mentioned it earlier, Del Mar kicked off their fall meet yesterday. And, as you were talking, I started thinking there's almost another little season here, because it used to be the wintertime tracks would start, but now with fairgrounds, Tampa gets going fairly shortly. I've seen some things on Twitter where the horses are kind of active down there. And you mentioned Oaklawn now has that early start. So there's kind of a late fall start to what used to be more the wintertime tracks, you would think.
Where horse racing has almost become like other sports. Baseball, the World Series is in November now. They've all elongated now in this regard for their own principal interests. Oaklawn Park, it's just... now they have 2-year-old racing in December, and they go to the Kentucky Derby, and it's et cetera. But you're right. I mean, fairgrounds used to start on Thanksgiving Day, was opening day, and used to usually end. They used to run that Louisiana Derby was first off was a mile and 16, so it was sort of like the old Florida Derby where it was a prep for the final prep around March 30th. They used to wrap it up. It used to be run on closing weekend of the Louisiana Derby, but you're right. They've you all along it. It's in Southern California. They had to do it out of necessity because Hollywood Park's gone. Yeah. They had to shuffle.
Yeah. And I'm envious of the fairgrounds people because Thanksgiving Day is always a big day down there. I guess you go to the track.
But Dick Powell told me, but he goes, it was a kind of like opening day at Del Mar, that it's a cultural event in New Orleans, Thanksgiving Day. I mean, I must say it's. There's 2 days in America that I don't really think of horse racing, and that's one of the two. You could probably guess the other one.
First race at Aqueduct on this Saturday afternoon. State bred maiden specials going 3/4 of a mile.
But I must say, I used to love what Naira did. The 11 o'clock post, they ran the races quickly. You're done by 3, you get home to the family. 3-6-2, and I also used to run in the turkey trot years ago. 3-6-2 in the Aqueduct opener for me, and Whiskey and Wine is the first time starter that I'm interested. There's a couple second-time starters that I think will garner the lion's share of the win bets. But Mr. McGahee sends out this offspring of More Than Ready off solid works for the debut. Dylan Davis gets the call. I'll take number 3 on top for second. Number 6, Lifetime of Chance. Linda Rice's horse outran double-digit odds in debut to hit the board. Well beaten, but did finish third at 10-1. And for third, first-time starter Bustino Santino, an offspring of Bustin' Stones for Roddy and Mary Valenti. Bruce Levine sends out this firster, 3-6-2 in the opener.
Race number 2, we're looking at $25,000 claimers going 9 furlongs.
1, 2, 6, my picks in here, and going right to the rail as we go the 2-turn, just like Saratoga configuration here. Chris Englehart's runner won at Finger Lakes, which was the second start since the middle of July. That was in classified allowance. I don't know if the scale exists to take the Finger Lakes winners over to the Naira tracks, but we're down inside. We've shown good early speed. We have Joel Rosario. I think we're just going to use that speed, that post position, and be a major player in this race. For second, right next door in the starting gate, Pioneer Spirit comes off a 9-furlong win at Aqueduct. See if this horse, who I think will tuck in right off the shoulder for a second and around early in the race. And for third, on the outside, Convertible Freeze, who I think is going to sit a very good trip in here behind the leaders, coming out of the same barn as my second pick. So maybe that could be a dangerous situation for number one. It's mandatory 1, 2, 6. Not dangerous in the way of harmful, but dangerous in the way that I could get ganged up on early and then late.
Dangerous in the way of losing a bet danger.
Yes, which is the truest form of danger for us, because we want everybody to be safe, so that's a given.
Optional claim or non-winners of 2 other than in the third, 6 furlongs is the distance.
5-3-1-A for me, and number 5 adds blinkers this afternoon for Christophe Clement. Took the summer basically off and came back. I apologize. It was off from May till August. Came back in the Jersey Shore. I don't remember that being an August race. I thought that was earlier in the calendar, because didn't some of them come back for the King's Bishop? That was the big prep race, rather prestigious for a while there. Put big money into it, and then came back at this level against Olders. That was the regression race that I have often spoken to, whether on debut or off of a freshening. You run a big race, you're going to have the muscle regression, and then you move forward in the third race in the cycle. That's where we are adding blinkers. For a second, Nova Rags, Bill Mott's runner, who had a tremendous Breeders' Cup, and a friend of the program. I know Mr. Shanley, the owner of number 3, making the first start since my birthday, losing the Baby Yoda at Saratoga. And for third, part of the entry, scheduled to break from the number 7 post position, 1A, Pirate Rick. So 5-3-1A.
Yeah, I don't have a date, but looking down, I pulled up the list of winners while you were talking.
Okay.
Looking down the list of winners, it was clearly an important race, because the list of winners: 2006, Henny Hughes; 2001, City Zip, Disco Rico, Yes It's True, Smoke Glacken. So
it was a big time race. I would bet a Pepsi that it was graded. It's listed now. I don't know that it ever got to be a grade 2, because it's restricted to 3-year-olds, I believe. But it was a big time race. I'm glad my memory didn't fail me there.
Fourth race at Aqueduct, conditional claimers, non-winners at 2, going 6.
2-7-1 for me, and Kingstown draws the rail for Mark Henning. I'm throwing out the most recent effort. This will be the second start since June. And one of my least favorite lines to read in the racing form, Seth, is on Kingstown, where it reads on the August 24th race at Saratoga, the weekday, didn't finish under the line first, but awarded first purse money, which means the owners were made whole, the bettors not so much. What that means is, after the fact, the disqualification came. And you can read the lines that the adjudication came down between August 24th, the day of the race, and the August 16th, because they ran in a 2L without finishing first. So that's one of those examples you have to, if you read, I didn't do this, but I've done it other times, Seth. My guess is if you go to the Equibase chart now for this race, August 24th, at the bottom of the notes, it will tell you the date of the disqualification of the mutual winner. That's one thing that they do, and they leave the price up for the mutual winner. For a second, number 7 going out for Chris Engelhardt, third career start. Debuted at Saratoga for a tag. Went to Finger Lakes, won in a maiden special weight race rather impressively. Now comes back to Naira for a tag. Chris Engelhardt, very sharp trainer, doing the right thing, and scheduled to break for the number 6 post position. Number 1, win for gold. First off to claim 2-7-1 for me in the 4th. Does it say it?
Capital letters at the end of
Yes,
the footnotes.
all caps usually.
Built to Last was disqualified and unplaced in the order of finish due to a positive test.
Yeah, they didn't put the date, but
Yeah,
that's what they usually.
The mutuals are unchanged.
Yeah,
obviously.
that's one thing that they do that's wonderful. For the bet, they show you what the bettors got, and then they always all cap it at the bottom of the original footnotes.
Which they have to,
fun.
because as I'm looking, there's the normal DQ note, number 4, Built to Last, from first
Place
to
last.
5th. And then if you look down at the PPs, or look down at the prices,
Yeah.
you're kind of like, well, what happened? So you'd have to go down and check that, and that it's in all caps, pulls you right to the explanation.
Yeah.
I will also toss out, while you were talking, I looked up City Zip because I was intrigued there as well, and sure enough,
what was it?
there's the chart. I had it a second ago, but it was sure enough. Oh, here we are. It was a grade 3 when City Zip won it in 2001, and it was Independence Day. And then City Zip went to the Amsterdam up in Saratoga, and then the King's Fishing.
That sounds like the order that I remember.
Yeah, so it was
20 years ago.
all right. Race number 5 at Aqueduct, a B condition claimer, 1 mile a trip.
You know, I had to check my notes. This B condition claimer has gone the way of the dodo bird in New York.
Yeah.
It never existed. It became popular about 20 years ago, and then it's gone away. This is the first 4-2-6 for me. Eric Consell gets the 4, only the 3rd start since December 2nd, folks. That was a $35,000 claim. Came back for the waiver. That was a nothing race. Then on the turf, ran remarkably better. So we're hoping that turf race kind of equals like 4 workouts. So we get back to the dirt, sitting a mile for 2nd. Number 2, Al's Prince, Jeffrey Engelhardt. I've talked about Jeffrey. He's a interesting trainer pattern where he seems to be the best case example of big spikes for about 2 weeks, then the very low for whatever period of time, and then a big spike. And his horses seem to be nearing that big spike. And for 3rd, number 6, Forever Wicked, 4-2-6. And what I want to emphasize is that's very typical for all trainers, that there's a high and a low, and for some trainers that have allowance horses, or they got to go new conditions, etc. Claimers, though, even claiming trainers, you would think they could level it out more evenly. They cannot. They have, but Jeffrey Engelhardt to me seems to be the most high peaks and then extended lows than guys like, I talked about that Rudy would have probably a much better, he's not going to go 2 for 82, etc. They come back. But Jeffrey seems to be really like a guy to be dialed into when he's going well, and to be dialed into away from when
Last spring, he had about a
that was
3-week
it.
period where
He won everything, and then he
fun.
had about 3 months where he couldn't find the winner's circle.
6th race at Aqueduct, Statebred Maiden Claimers, again going 6 furlongs.
985 for me, and going to the outside. Snubber Snow gets my top pick. Mark Hennig's runner. This will be 2nd time in for a tag, and I've talked about, the New York Breds have 2 levels. It's 40 or 25. Tried the 40, very reasonable. Now the tries the 25. First start since August 31st. They add blinkers, making the 5th career start. And through the years, we've not really thought about Mark early in the career. Kendrick Carmouche probably be on the engine from the outside. And for 2nd, number 8, New York Supreme, Ray Handel gets to the racetrack for the first time with this runner since early January, so 10 months off. And for 3rd, Tonight We Love. They're adding blinkers for Carlos Martin. 3rd start in a cycle after being off 5 full months. 985.
All right, I just looked up. Yes, it's true. And in 1999, the Jersey Shore was run in June 19th. So it's even earlier. So now it's about 2 months later than it was back when it was a
It was
graded stakes race. And then he went from there to the DeFrancis Memorial, which is clearly very different on the calendar
boy,
now.
no race has shifted on the calendar more than French. You want to, if you dial it down, there's a tab that says race history, just to see if it was ever a grade 2. No, on the page you're on.
Oh, okay. Click on.
No, scroll up, go to race. Oh, you went to the individual horse.
Yeah.
Okay, click on the race. That we're talking about, the Jersey Shore race.
There we go. Boom.
Click on the race, and go to race history. Just see if it was ever a grade 2. It never got there, did it? Always a grade 3 graded?
Grade 3 up until
Okay. Then it lost its grading.
2016.
Yeah, it was a, it was a.
Well, clearly with those names, a
Yeah.
couple of those were wound up
Yeah.
being champions. So.
Yeah, so-
7th race at Aqueduct, $20,000 starter allowance. 1 mile is the distance.
You know what I think of every time I think of Yes, It's True? There's only one image.
Yes, it's true now.
People, history, and if you have a boring life like me, he was the horse, odds on, in the famous race on Preakness Day, when the guy ran on the track trying to punch him. And
yes.
people forget, forget that craziness of that. This is what people really forget. That was sort of our taxes run to a championship.
Yeah, that's right.
But yes, it's true for Wayne, the coach, was the favorite. I want to say 3-5, big favorite, odds on. And the wacko drunk kid runs out onto the track.
That's
but
right.
every time people say, yes, it's true, that's all I can think about is Preakness Day.
That's right.
99.
7th race. Have we gone through the 7th, or you still have to look at the 7th?
No, we're up to the 7th.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's the starter allowance, 1 mile a trip.
Yes. So 3-1-4 outlier, my top pick. Norm Cash runner just got beat at Keeneland. Rooting 2 turns, now gets the 1-turn mile. For second, number 1, locally owned Tom Morley claimed this horse back after an impressive victory at Saratoga. Lost this horse when it was the beaten favorite most recently. And for third, number 4, Chris and Dave. Rob Atras claimed this horse for 25. Horse is dramatically improved off the figs. Has run back-to-back seconds, though. 3-1-4.
8th race, optional claimer, non-winners of 2 other than the condition. 1 mile and 3/16 is the distance.
And just a quick note, we mentioned earlier, it's a 9-race card. There's no stakes because they already Schiller tomorrow. 5-3-4 for me. Rough C going out this afternoon with Trevor McCarthy, this Mid-Atlantic runner, 1-2 races back. That was long-winded on the turf, but you go back to July 9th, won by a pole, rooting at Monmouth Park, running what I would think is against the grain of the track. And for second, Treasure Trove, Norm Cash's other selection for me today. Recently, a well-beaten second down at Laurel. And for third, 235, very popular at the claim box, comes off of a third and an off-the-turfer at this rarely run distance, 5-3-4.
We wrap it up on the Saturday
Just a
card.
quick thing, because it was a mile 3/16. One of the most least talked about world records ever in New York, Riva Ridge's Brooklyn. That's, if you look at the, because this was a scheduled mile, I think it's 151 and change. No one talks about it, but about a month after Secretariat's 152 and 2, Secretariat's 224. Riva Ridge won the Brooklyn at the odd distance of 1 mile and 3/16, setting the American and world record for that distance.
Race number 9 on
My first
Saturday.
favorite horse,
Oh,
Riva.
It's Forgo. I was looking up Forgo's. That's the one that
Fourth
got me.
place.
And that was kind of the nice thing. We should mention that going back to Flightline 2 and social media. There was so much discussion about all-time great, not all-time great. But the discussion was great because it had people bringing up a lot of the great horses from the past. And it got me thinking, looking up Forgo's record. And one thing he did that Flightline didn't come close to, but nobody comes close to anymore. He ran up with 130 pounds, probably 20 times or more, much more, 137. You just don't see that anymore.
I don't remember the beginning of Forgo's career too much, but I remember the ending, and Shoemaker would say they had to measure how much he won by because they knew he was getting handicap weight. Very, very unique. I've said this before about Flightline, and I have to talk with our good friend Brian. But Brian and I have been in the same boat that Ghost Zapper is the best horse since Spectacular Bid. You should know with Brian, Brian really got into the game about 94, so he wouldn't, first off, he's younger. He wouldn't really have a Spectacular Bid point of reference. But in the, I love Ghost Zapper just like Brian, but he got elbowed out after that performance.
Ninth and final at Aqueduct, State-Bred Maidens going, State-Bred Maiden Claimers going 6.
You know, when you'll see the numbers, and if you don't have the paper in front of you, Katie Gal is 30-1 here, and as I looked over this race, I know it's State-Breds and they're in for their lowest tag for Maiden Claimers, but I thought it was a very even race, and I'm not casting aspersions against the morning line horses that are a little lower that, this is my question, Seth. I don't think I've ever said this. Did the trainers that entered this race look at the condition book? These are all turf. There's like 5 turf horses in here. Like confirmed turf horses. The 2, the 5, maybe the 6, definitely the 7, maybe the 8. The 7 and the 8 are like the 2 morning line choices in here. Honestly, I've never looked at a race going, this can't be an off the turf. We know the guys that put their horses in turf races, and they're thinking, I'm like, this is a dirt sprint, right? Phenomenal. So my horse at 30-1, I think is in the upper division of this race, in my opinion. I think, Treat Street has never run on dirt. It's 7-2. I'll take my chances at 30-1. I have early speed. I have to go back to the February 26th, second career start at the Big A, going a mile, finished second. That's what I'm hanging my hat on. One race, but we're 30-1 against some horses that I'm like, okay. Rosie Byrne, my next pick. On dirt, most recently, finished second, got beat almost a baker's dozen. And for third, the morning line favorite, trying dirt for the first time for our good friend, Mark Henning, Treat Street. I know it's the 9th race on the Saturday. There'll be a lot of action on the network. Seth will be here at 4:12, but one of the most intriguing races I've ever seen. I know it's a State-Bred Maiden Claimant filly's 25, but I'm like...
I also think we're getting to that time of year where you try...
anything?
You give a shot at dirt because that's what the winner's going to be. So it's like, do I have it?
But that's a good point.
A horse to,
that's a good point.
Keep
but I'm
going
like,
with.
We're talking about betting today. You got to find. You got to go the other direction. I'm like, how do you? I will say it's interesting. I think David does a great job. So you're making a horse first time dirt the morning line favorite. It's very odd.
Well,
good luck. I'll probably run 1 too.
And we got to go because we're running overtime.
I thought you said you had 10-10.
Oh well, yeah, but you still like this.
You like to hit the clock, but you told me.
Oh, I did. I did. And I am now going to elongate things anyway because as you were talking, you got, and I meant to bring this up as we talked Breeders' Cup.
Yes.
Your incredible matron winner, where last week you were saying, well, I went to the wedding, now I'm going to go to the reception. Top of the stretch.
She was good to the people.
I thought the first wedding was maybe just for a small family.
Advertising.
You were going to we're going to do the second wedding for the whole family. I thought you were going to the second wedding. Top of the stretch. She looked great at a bigger price.
She was 50-1. I'm glad you brought it. And I was only surprised she went right on the pace. I wanted her to let them go crazy, and she held on to the 16th.
And I was looking at American Apple, right?
Yeah,
We're talking about
yes.
that.
She ran great.
Top of the stretch, I thought,
oh my
this isn't a
goodness.
reception. This is another wedding. They're having a second wedding here.
They had a destination wedding. Now they came home and they invited the whole family. She ran well. I told you, Seth, I would have taken head-to-head against a lot of horses in that race.
At the top of the stretch,
she looked great.
Just
She
got a
ran
little
great.
short, and they swallowed her up a
And
little
it was
bit.
funny
but,
I'm glad for the connections because I think they got paid a little bit. And I didn't follow you because you told me.
Yeah, I didn't see what
in
she
the
was supposed to
sale.
go to the office.
But no, she ran well.
Yeah,
I just was shocked when.
I was laughing. I'm thinking, this is not the reception. At this my bigger
Those
price.
light blue silks in front of everybody.
Yeah, no, that was
Thank
good.
you. No, she did run well, as I thought.
All right, so we'll wrap it up.
So you have Tim Wilkin on.
Tim Wilkin,
Terry
we'll talk some
Finley.
Breeders' Cup with Tim because he was down there covering for the Blood Horse, and Terry Finley. We'll talk.
Please
we'll
tell Terry
talk some
and Tim I said
Finley.
hello. I mean, congratulations, Terry, involved in, obviously. You know, he was obviously very emotional after the race. And one thing I would say, when I have private conversations with him, only private because it'll just be the two of us, not that kind of thing. I've always been interested in athletics all around. That Terry has to realize he's never going to be around a horse this good again, ever. And what that feeling's like. You know, it's a very unique thing in athletics that there you have it. The mountain's been scaled. You might never have one close to this good. All right, he stays, I go. Have a great Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I was surprised because
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.